There are many things in life that we don't have absolute control over. One of those things is luck. We cannot control it because if we could, it wouldn't be luck. But we can increase our potential for good luck and good opportunities to come our way. And I'm not talking about this in some woo-woo sense, like you got to sit there and manifest and do law of attraction and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. There are practical, actionable things that you can do to basically make yourself a luckier person. That's what we're going to be looking at in this video. Now, this is a detailed video. It's fairly in-depth. We're going to be looking at multiple strategies that you can implement in your life. And so I've put together a document containing the text version of this video, in article form so you can read it and reference it, as well as the links, resources, books that I studied in putting together this video. If you want that, just hit the link in the description below, enter your email, and you'll get access. You'll also get access to my ultimate book and resource list as a bonus. Now, let me set the stage for you. Imagine yourself on a small one-person fishing boat in the middle of the ocean. You have a net for catching fish. You're not alone. There are plenty of other boats out there all trying to catch their own fish. Your goal is to catch as many fish as you can. There are three main ways to maximize your chances of catching more fish. The first thing you can do is increase the size of your net. A larger net means it's more likely that the fish will end up there. Makes sense. The second thing you can do is position yourself better. You can sail to an area where there's more fish. The third thing you can do is persist and stay out for longer periods of time. This is a useful analogy for luck. Some people get a good starting point in life. They start with a boat that has a large net and they happen to be in a location with a lot of fish. They start in a lucky position. Others start with a small net in a poor location. We could call this a less lucky position. This starting point is something that you and we can't control. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose where we're born. We don't choose certain aspects of our genetics. But we can increase the size of our net. We can make ourselves a bigger target for luck. We can figure out how to position ourselves better, to move to new locations, to sail to where the fish are, to where the opportunity is. And we can build grit and perseverance to stay out for longer than others. We can build stay-in power. We can view this as a formula. Luck equals surface area multiplied by position multiplied by stay-in power. So let's look at how to do these three things in detail, starting with increasing our luck surface area. In the world, there's luck or good chance, good opportunities, whatever you want to call it, flowing all around you. Good and bad things happen each day. Obviously, you want to have good things happen to you. But how do you do that? Well, one approach might be to specifically seek out what you think is the good opportunity, the thing that's luck. You might try and plan and strategize your way towards it, but this is a difficult thing to do for many reasons. Largely because, A, you don't know what it is that you want half the time. And if you achieve what you think is lucky, but it turns out to be something you dread, then that's not fun. For example, you might chase the wrong career out of a desire for status or prestige. You get into it thinking that you're lucky, and then you find out that you're actually miserable. Or B, you might shut yourself off from the real lucky opportunity because you've got tunnel vision on a specific goal. And finally, C, life just doesn't work this way for most people. We can't really see the luck that's around us. It's not a visible thing. It's just kind of flowing in and out. And occasionally, if we're lucky, we get hit by it. A better approach is to make yourself a bigger target for luck, to increase your surface area for luck. This way, the opportunities that are constantly flowing in the world are more likely to hit you. Fundamentally, the person with a larger luck surface area is the person with stronger and wider networks and with significant influence in those networks. Networks cannot be understated. Your life is driven by the effects of them, whether it's the family you're born into, the college you go to, the job or career you have, the person you marry or spend time with. It drives a huge amount of your behavior and your luck. As James Currier writes in his article, your life is driven by network effects. The networks of human connections in your life create a force that guides you down a path not always fully of your intention through the mechanism of hundreds of small interactions. Further, this network force compounds over time. The longer your relationships, cliques, and communities persist, the more they shape your destiny. Now, as I mentioned, and as he mentions in the article, we don't get to choose a lot of our networks. They are assigned to us. We don't get to choose the size of our net and our fishing block, at least at the beginning. But we can build new networks and benefit from the effects of them as we move through life. And as much as we can to increase our luck surface area, we want to be a large node in the networks that we are in. Because the bigger the node, the more opportunity and luck will flow to it. As Currier writes, most things that happen in society are multi-turn and repetitive. These are called preferential attachment processes, which happen when something, such as money, status, fame, punishment, is distributed based on how much is already possessed. Most social processes are preferential attachment. For example, if two founders each tweet out the same great idea at the same time, the one with more status will be given credit for the idea. What's fascinating is that this is because of math. Nodes that are ahead get picked more often by the other nodes because they are ahead, and thus offer the nodes choosing them less friction and more benefit. When this gets repeated many times, it systematically directs more resources to the nodes that already have relatively more. Now, to bring this into real life context, we have to consider that there are multiple networks. Aside from the immediate ones like family and friends, we have IRL networks, the people you meet with in person on a regular or semi-regular basis. We have virtual P2P networks, so people you meet or communicate with virtually on a regular or semi-regular basis. And then we have one-to-many, people you send communication to. For example, like this YouTube channel, I'm talking to you right now, it's one-to-many. Now, I'm not really a believer in networking for the sake of networking. I just think there are better ways to go about it. If you're trying to connect with others without actually doing interesting stuff and adding value somehow, then it's hard to build much influence, which is what we want to increase our node size in the network, to increase the size of our net so we can catch more fish. What you want to do instead is embrace doing and telling. From the aptly named article, How to Increase Your Luck Surface Area, Jason Roberts writes, if there's one thing I've discovered in recent years, it's this. The amount of serendipity that will occur in your life, your luck surface area, is directly proportional to the degree to which you do something you're passionate about, combined with the total number of people to whom this is effectively communicated. And he puts this into a simple equation, a little bit different from my one, which is that L equals D multiplied by T, or luck equals doing multiplied by telling. And we can see here that the more doing and telling you do, the better outcomes you usually get. Doing and telling is the highest leverage thing you can do to increase luck surface area and benefit from network effects, because it develops all three networks at once, unlike less effective strategies such as going to an in-person networking event, which doesn't let you broadcast one-to-many or virtual P2P. I'll give you an example. This YouTube channel. I'm passionate about human performance, working, thinking better, and so I started making content on what I was researching and thinking about. People liked it and subscribed to the channel, which built a one-to-many network. Some of these people reached out directly to me through email or Twitter. Some of them paid for consulting, others just sent a message. And a selection of these people I now communicate with on a regular basis. And so that's the virtual peer-to-peer network. And some of them I've met in person, the IRL network. And so simply by doing and telling, making content, sharing it, I've hit all three networks and increased influence in them. So practically, what does this look like? What does it mean to do and tell? Well, it's hard for me to walk through it without knowing what your specific situation is, but I'm going to assume that most of you watching this want to build a business or some sort of side project, or you're a content creator, writer, YouTuber, something like that, artist. It doesn't matter. This applies to you. The first component of this doing and telling is to start with volume. Volume is an overpowered strategy for increasing luck surface area. This applies especially if you're starting out. You must do a large volume of work. This is the doing part, and there's no way around it. There are multiple reasons why luck increases with volume of doing. First, your skill increases rapidly with volume in a way that it can't through a focus purely on quality. Improved skill results in better work. And as that work that you do reaches people through the telling, your luck surface area increases. As you do volume, you get signal and data from the world. Maybe you launch multiple products in your business and one does surprisingly well. That's good data. You've learned something. You double down, you launch a similar product. Your luck surface area increases with this insight and data that can only be gained through volume. You can't theorize your way there. Finally, power laws exist. If you're putting things out into the world, whether it's content or products, then what you'll find is that one piece of content or one product will outperform all the others by a significant amount, like 10x. I mean, if you don't believe me, just go to my channel and sort the videos by popular, and you'll see that the most popular video has like 10 times more views than the next most popular one. That's power laws in action. And it's so hard to strategize your way towards that kind of outcome. It's usually a result of doing volume. For more on the topic of volume, check out my video called Quality Over Quantity is Poor Advice. Here's a better system. And also check out the resources in the document linked in the description below. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So you want to do volume. You also want to work in public. You want to publish content even if you're not a content creator. Even if you're doing something that's more offline than online, documenting it in public on the internet is one of the best things you can do to increase your luck surface area. You want to tell people what you're doing. You want to tell your story. You want to benefit from the network and influence that can be gained by doing such a thing. A good example of this is a guy called Nick Huber. He's a self-storage entrepreneur who started posting on Twitter, I think a few years back, sharing behind the scenes stories of deals and business moves. And he just blew up on Twitter, gained an immense amount of influence, and everything kind of went exponential from there. And I think if you asked him, like, how did telling impact your life, he would say it completely changed it. Now, it is hard to do this. It's especially hard to do it on top of your job or your business, but it opens up a whole new world of leverage and asymmetry that is not really available to you otherwise. It increases your luck surface area significantly. One more thing on the doing and telling piece is to work on 10x projects. When you've got volume handled, you're working in public, you're doing the telling, it's time to start thinking about leverage. Like, what's the biggest thing you can do to increase your luck surface area? The question you want to ask is, what's the one thing I can work on that has the potential to increase my luck surface area more than anything else? A good example of this might be writing a book versus simply writing articles on a blog. While authorship is undoubtedly hard and there's no guarantees of success, in general, there's a significant difference in the influence and luck surface area that writing a book can provide compared to blogging. People remember books, but they don't necessarily remember articles or blog posts or even YouTube videos for that matter. Consider James Clear. He had a large following on his blog and his newsletter, but it completely blew up after he spent 3 years working on a 10x project, which was Atomic Habits. A lot of people hadn't heard about him until that book came out. Or Eric Jorgensen, who had somewhat of a following on Twitter, but then came out with his book, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, which I believe has now been read by over 5 million people. And now he's the CEO of Scribe Media. You might not be a writer or a content creator, but if you've been in the game and you've been working on your craft for a while, then there's likely a 10x project you could work on that has a potential to change your life. And as I'm saying this is largely a note to self because I haven't written my book yet. I haven't done my 10x project, but it will come. Okay, so let's move on to the second component of increasing luck, which is to improve your position. So aside from just increasing the size of the target that you are, you can also improve the position you're in. Luck happens to flow more freely and more abundant in some places more than others. And there's a number of things you can do to improve your position, both physically, mentally, and otherwise. Let's look at 3 of them. The first is to change environment. One of the biggest actions you can take to increase your luck surface area is to move to a new location. There's no doubt that you can be extremely successful anywhere. The internet has made this possible. However, that doesn't mean physical location is unimportant. Real world interactions matter. There's a reason why cities are cities, and there's a reason why, despite the internet changing everything, ambitious people still congregate in specific locations. But what if you can't simply get up and move to a new city? And maybe you're not even optimizing for that anyway. Maybe you like where you live and there's more important things to you than just maximizing income and work opportunities. Well, there are other things you can do to change and upgrade your environment to increase your position or to improve your position. You can join the right communities and contribute to them. Some of the communities that I've paid for access to, like masterminds and stuff, have been tremendously valuable to me in terms of the opportunities that have come my way, the friendships I've made, and the things that I've learned. You can, like we just looked at, publish to the digital square. You can make your voice be heard. You can connect with people, cold email them, get on Zoom calls, pay for their time if necessary. But again, if you have the means and the will and desire, then I wouldn't neglect moving location. I think physical location is underrated, and you just never know what's going to happen when you live in certain places. Second way to improve your positioning is to act with agency. This is sort of an ongoing meta skill or habit for consistently improving your position. Improving your position happens through taking action in the world and navigating through it, not by sitting around and waiting. The high agency person constantly improves their position. That doesn't mean they're always moving to new cities or changing their environment, but it does mean they're constantly on the lookout for opportunities and they're taking action to seize those opportunities that make sense to them. High agency people are positioned well. They are luckier than other people in general because of how they view the world. As George Mack writes, high agency is a sense that the story given to you by other people about what you can or cannot do is just that, a story, and that you have control over the story. A high agency person looks to bend reality to their will. They either find a way or they make a way. And here's a illustration in the tweet thread that I got that from. When you act with agency, you see opportunities where other people don't. You see possibilities rather than roadblocks. Your life is luckier and more expansive as a result. You can add more value to others, which means you become someone of more influence. Other people see you as high agency, and so the opportunity and the network flows to you, partly because people know that you'll do something with the opportunity. As this quote from Strangest Loop in the article, "You Need to Be Agency Maxing" reads, when you're agency maxing, others become more interested in helping you because you're a good investment. You, the agency maxer, apply a multiplier to others' help so that their help goes further than if they apply that help to someone who wastes it by not helping themselves. People like when their help makes a meaningful difference, and they don't like when their help goes to waste. And you consistently turn bad situations into good ones, which is perhaps one of the most powerful luck generating skills, because bad things are going to happen to you. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. External events will throw you off course. But if you're high agency, you can course correct very well and sometimes even reverse the impact of those things. Now, Kate Hall has some great advice on how to become this high agency person in her article, How to Become More Agentic. First, court rejection. This is all quoted. Ask for things. Ask for things that feel unreasonable. If you're only asking for things you get, then you're not aiming high enough. One of the points here is that you want to detach rejection from your emotional self. Because if you don't do that, then you won't ask for as much stuff because you'll be feeling the fear of rejection. If you can detach those two things and just see asking as a thing that you do, isolated in a way, then it's not as big of a deal. Seek real feedback. If you aren't trying to get real feedback from people who know you, you're cooking without tasting. This is the lowest hanging fruit for self-improvement, but few people really try to pick it. Assume everything is learnable. Most subject matter is learnable, even stuff that seems really hard. But beyond that, most traits that people treat as fixed are actually quite malleable if you first believe they are, and second, put the same kind of work into learning them as you would anything else. Another one, learn to love the moat of low status. It's like if you're starting a new business or you're entering a new career or you're trying to do anything new, you have to go through a period of time where you're kind of low status. Like no one knows who you are. You haven't really proven yourself yet. You haven't really had a hit. And so you just have to do this work in the dark. And the person who does that and does it faithfully and does it well is a high agency person. Finally, she says, don't work too hard. Burnout is the ultimate agency killer, which I don't think needs much explaining. All right, one more thing on improving your position is a decision-making heuristic called the luck razor. When you're choosing between two things, whether it's a path or a goal or just a small decision, choose the one that you feel has more potential for luck. You can apply this razor to big decisions. Like, should I move to a new city and take this great job opportunity, even though it's scary? Or should I stay where I am, where I'm more comfortable? Well, one of those probably has a high potential for luck. Choose that one. You can also apply it to these smaller decisions that lead to lucky outcomes, but seem kind of insignificant in the moment. You might be thinking, should I stay in and watch Netflix or should I go to this cocktail party? One of those increases your potential for luck far more. I like to apply this when thinking about which goals and projects to work on. For example, my decision to double down on YouTube this year was that I felt it was a higher luck bet than the alternative goals I was considering. It had more asymmetry on the upside. We're going to talk about staying power and persistence. Luck, surface area, and positioning mean nothing if you have no staying power. Coming back to the fishing analogy, you've increased the size of your net. You've found a fishing spot that's bountiful. But after 20 minutes of being on the boat and not having caught anything, you get bored and you quit. You tell yourself, there's no point. It's not working. You see this happen in real life all the time. Some people are born with massive nets and they start in a great location, but they have low or no staying power. And so they just quit. They get complacent. They give up. Meanwhile, people who started with smaller nets in poorer locations outperform them simply because they persevere. So you need to develop this staying power. And there are three components to this. There's actually a lot more, but we're going to talk about three. Endurance and long time horizon, curiosity and energy. Let's start with endurance and long time horizon. I've put these two together because they go hand in hand. It's really hard to hold a long time horizon with something without being someone of perseverance and endurance. And it's also very hard to have that endurance and perseverance if you don't hold a long time horizon. So they go hand in hand. If luck is largely a function of our influence in a network, which comes from the value we add through doing and telling, then we need to persist in the doing and the telling. And that takes a lot of time to do well. Writing a book or several books requires disgusting levels of persistence and endurance. The same goes with making a documentary or building a business or growing your career in the way you want. Whatever it is, anything exceptional requires persistence over long time frames. Unfortunately, most people give up before reaching the point where their efforts start to pay off. They might write 10 articles on their blog and then quit, failing to realize that the 11th might have been the one that changed the game. Or they might publish 20 videos on YouTube and then give up because it's not working, not realizing that the 21st video would be the breakthrough. So you must adopt a long time horizon. You must commit to doing things that will compound over time. It's basically impossible to get this kind of hockey stick type growth in whatever it is that you're doing without persistence and endurance during the times where it doesn't seem to be growing at all. Now, there's two main factors that contribute to this endurance and persistence, in my opinion. Curiosity and energy. Let's talk about curiosity. It's extremely difficult to persist in doing work that you dislike, especially over the long term. Curiosity is one of the drivers of hard work and drivers of endurance, as Paul Graham writes. Interest will drive you to work harder than mere diligence ever could. You've likely experienced what he means, and hopefully you're experiencing this right now in your life. When you work on something you're intensely curious about, you don't need productivity hacks. You don't need to distract yourself with software apps and other trivial things. You want to do the work for the most part because it's interesting. You want to learn more, you want to grow, you want to develop your skills and explore the seemingly never-ending world that you're spending your time in, that you're interested in. This doesn't mean it's sunshine and rainbows. Of course not. As I said in my last video on how to grind through the boring work, even the most passionate people still need to persist through periods of boredom and frustration and what often feels mundane. But curiosity and interest still lie at the foundation. Your persistence feels purposeful. The other component is energy. Energy flows out of curiosity because the energetic person is usually the person who enjoys their work, but it also flows out of state. And that if you're burned out, you're exhausted, you're sleeping terribly, and you generally lack energy, then your ability to endure and to persist will be impacted. You'll probably feel less curious about things as well. You'll find it harder to act with agency. Fixing the energy problem is beyond the scope of this video, but it's worth taking a two-pronged approach. How can you do work, even if it's a small amount each day, that you're intensely interested in? This alone will positively impact your energy, especially mentally. And then second, what's the highest leverage thing you can do to improve your health and your state? Perhaps it's figuring out your sleep issues or not drinking as much alcohol. Whatever it is, identify these two things, the small amount of work you can do that will energize you, the thing that's holding back your state and your health, and then act on them. So just to recap where we're at, we're increasing our luck surface area by focusing on doing and telling. We're building influence in the network. We're increasing our node size so that the opportunities and the luck flow to us. We're improving our position so that we're in a place, whether it's a physical location or virtual, where luck is more likely to flow to us. And we're persevering. We're sticking to it. We're grinding it out. We're doing things we're curious about. We're maintaining our energy. Now I want to share 3 other principles that didn't really fit into that framework above, but are still worth considering in the context of this topic. The first is to avoid tunnel vision. Tunnel vision reduces your potential for luck because you're less likely to notice opportunities that you're not looking for. If you think about your life thus far, you probably didn't plan it all out step by step to this point. I mean, you might have, but most people don't do that. Things happen to you, you follow little paths, you have epiphanies, you're thrown off course somewhere else, and eventually you end up in a place and you're like, how did I even get here? Well, it's because you noticed opportunities that you weren't even looking for. So you want to avoid tunnel vision, but you also want to operate with determination and focus. So it's a bit of a balance because you can't just latch on to every shiny object that comes your way, right? Like you need level of commitment, you need a long time horizon, you need to work on long-term goals. And so it's hard to strike that balance, but you do not want to end up in a position where you're so heads down focused on a goal that doesn't particularly make sense and you're completely shut off from better opportunities. Another one is that luck compounds due to expectation. We've looked at how luck compounds due to networks and nodes and how the opportunities flow to you, but it also compounds in another powerful way. When you experience good luck, when good opportunities come your way and you seize them, it calibrates your expectation. You expect it to continue. That expectation that your good luck will continue affects the way you operate in the world. You are more positive and optimistic, which in turn enables you to spot more opportunities. It encourages you to be more high agency, to ask for things, to do things. And so it's almost like a flywheel in a way. And that once you start increasing your luck or your potential for luck, your luck surface area, and you get the benefit of doing that, it expands. It builds upon itself. Your surface area grows even more and more and more and more. That is why lucky people are lucky and they get luckier. Now, there's another principle which I'd be remiss to not include in this video, and that is to avoid increasing risk surface area. The same way you can increase luck surface area to increase your chances of good things happening to you, it also works in reverse. Bad things happen in life and you can't always avoid them. That's just the way the world works. But you want to avoid increasing your risk surface area where it's stupid to do so. Sometimes you should increase it because it exposes you to upside, luck, right? In an asymmetric way. Like building a business increases your risk surface area. It increases the chance of something going wrong, but the upside can be well worth it. But there are some things that increase risk surface area without this upside, without this asymmetry. Good example is texting while driving. It's just like a very stupid thing to do, but people still do it. The asymmetry of it is ridiculous, right? Like it has huge downside, fatal downside in fact, and the upside is like so minimal that it just makes zero sense to do. It's irrational. And this needs to be said because if you just increase your luck surface area and you don't mitigate potentially fatal downsides, like if you're trying to, build a business and do amazing things in life and you're still like texting while driving or something stupid, like that's dumb. You're increasing risk without any upside attached to it. My favorite quote from Charlie Munger is relevant here. It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent. All right, I wanted to end this video with a real quick sort of random list that I'm calling things you're allowed to do. Now, this is not my idea. I got it from an article from Milan. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Citkovic. And the article is called Things You're Allowed to Do. I pulled some from his and I've added my own. Now, these are all things that can increase your luck surface area. The first is to pay for people's time. A lot of people don't realize you can do this. If there's someone you follow on social media, maybe it's an author that's written a book you like and they're not like super famous, you can contact them and ask if they charge up for their time. A lot of them do. Maybe you pay couple of $100, but you can ask very specific questions. And at the very least, you'll get answers to those questions. But the asymmetry is that you might form a relationship. And if you don't believe me, one of my best friends today actually did this. He paid for an hour of my time years ago. He wanted help with marketing consulting for his online business. And we ended up talking after that, back and forth, emailing, texting. And now we're really good friends. We just spent a week in New York City together a number of months back. So you just never know what can happen. Consider doing it. Pay for people's time. Second thing is to send cold emails and direct messages. People shy away from this because they think it's annoying, but I think that's just like a BS excuse. You should just do it. Like men used to go to war, but you can't email someone. I mean, come on. Like the upside to a cold email or cold DM is massive. The downside is like they get annoyed or they tell you to go away or whatever. Like, okay, that's all right. You can move on. You can host events. You can invite people from different friend circles to come together. The benefit of that is you increase the size of your node if two people meet and they attribute that meeting or that friendship that results to you. Keith Ferrazzi's book, Never Eat Alone, is a great resource here. You can follow up with people, even if you think it's annoying. A lot of people will not respond to like the first outreach or the first email, the first cold DM or first phone call. People are busy. And if you follow up with them, you significantly increase your chances of building a connection and increasing opportunity. You can fly out and meet people in person if it's important and potentially life-changing. My former business coach on Facebook, back when like people used Facebook, he had his location set to San Francisco, even though he lived in Thailand, I think at the time. And I asked him why. I was like, it says you're in San Francisco. He's like, yeah, what I'll do is like, if someone asks for a meeting because they see I'm in San Francisco and it's like an important person and I think something could happen, I'll book a coffee in with them or something and I'll go fly over there. And I was like, that's genius. It's such a cool thing to do. And then the final thing I'm pulling from Milan's article, and that's to just ask for things. He says, in general, just ask for things, even if you've never heard someone ask for them. It's okay if the things are crazy. You can always mollify afterward by saying, I know that's a crazy thing to ask for, but I have a rule that I always ask. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Just a reminder that if you want the list of all the links, the resources, as well as the article or essay version of this video, then click the link in the description below to get access.